Out of the box, Spring Security provides us with a number of ways to manage our users and their authorities within a database. We have seen the JDBC user service tag, which declares an authentication manager, and that authentication manager relies upon a standard schema that Spring is familiar with. In this lesson, we're going to take a look at another option that creates a more robust opportunity for managing our users and their authorities. And this approach is by using group-based access control. So instead of individually assigning each user an authority, such as we currently have set up, we're going to interject a group between the users and the authorities. So basically, we're going to create a group, assign authorities to the group, and then we're going to assign users to the group. If you have a large number of users within your application, you can easily grant permissions to a set of users based upon that group. So instead of going through and finding every user I want to give a particular authority, I would just grant that authority to the group, and then it is then realized by every user within that group. Just like our initial setup, we're going to consult the Spring Security documentation. You're going to see that there is this group authorities by username query attribute upon the JDBC user service tag. We're going to apply the default query, so I'm just going to copy this query out. This is going to query against a standard schema that Spring Security will expect. Just by having this attribute defined within our configuration, it is going to signal to Spring Security that we are using group-based access control. So I'm just going to create a new line within the security context.xml file, and then I'm going to use the group authorities by username query, and then we're going to provide a value. We're just going to clean that up. And if you inspect this query, you will see that it is basically joining a groups table to a group members table and a group authorities table. Now, if you saw our init.sql file, you'll notice that we don't have these tables in place. So that's our next step. We go out and get the standard table definitions that Spring will provide via their documentation, and we're going to place them within our database. So in our case, that's in our init.sql file, which will initialize our H2 database. If we were to look for the JDBC DAO impl within the Spring Security documentation, you'll notice that you can navigate to the database schema appendix. And I already have that open here on this tab. And within this information, they will provide the schema for the group authorities tables. So here we see that we need to add these three tables to our init.sql file. And I'm going to add them under our authorities table and actually below that index it's creating. And these also need cleanup. So we now have introduced three tables. The groups table, which will store all of our groups that we define. We also have a group authorities table, and this is going to assign the authorities to the group, and then a group members table, which will define which users are in the group. So now that we have these tables in place, we need to add some groups, we need to add some authorities to the groups, and we also need to add some group members. So we're going to write some insert statements that will establish those relationships. So the first thing I'm going to do is just delete our authorities insert statement. And now we'll start out writing our insert statements. So let's first create a group, and the groups table takes an ID. It also takes a group name. So we just provide some values here. So let's make a group the admins. And now we're going to grant some authorities to these admins. So we're going to insert into the group authorities table, and that table has a group ID column as well as an authority column, and then we need to provide some values here. So obviously our group ID is going to match our admin group, and then for now we're just going to grant the user role to the admins. Next, we're going to add members to the group. And then we need to specify the columns in there, and that's the ID, the username, and the group ID. So the ID is just an arbitrary number. The username has to match one of our users, so let's go with N user. And then we need to specify the group ID that N user will be a part of. So there we've linked our N user to the group, and that group has authorities. So those permissions will then be granted to our N user. And what I'm going to do while we're here is I'm going to create another user. So we'll just call him A user for another user. And we're also going to put A user within the admins group. And now before we restart our server, let's actually change this ID to be unique so that the group members table has a unique ID key. So I'm going to change that to 2. And now we'll restart the server, and we'll just log into the app here. And we're going to sign in using the A user we just created. Now, if we tried to access the schedule, we wouldn't have that permission. We should also notice the same thing if we try to log in with N user. So N user logs in, and then we try to hit the schedule, and we're not allowed. So here is the power of using group-based access control. I can come back now, and I can add another authority into the group authorities table for the admin group. And now if we restart our server, you'll notice that both A user and the N user can access the application and its admin features. And we only had to make that one change. So let's sign in as A user, and now we'll hit the schedule, and you'll see that we have been granted access. So had we had 1,000 users in that situation, all it would have taken is one simple change, whereas under the old form, we would have to change each individual user. So there's some real power in group-based access control if you have a large user base.